great party. I was standing next to the fireplace, drinking a glass of champagne, asking myself why I'd even come in the first place. Melody Winters, accounting team leader, was trying her best to flirt with me as I gazed out at the crowd. Maybe a couple dozen people had shown up. None of them were familiar. It's amazing how you can work at a place for nearly 6 years and not recognize a single face. The only reason I even knew Melody was because of the name badge the host had insisted we all wear. "Don't thank me, this is all Lucas," I told her, pointing towards the marketing manager. He was clicking his fork against his glass to get everyone's attention, just as I had mentioned him. "Hey everyone, thanks again for coming here. This year has definitely been rougher. Harder than most, if I'm being honest. And it just means a lot to be able to spend time with all of you," he commented. A few coworkers raised their glasses as he asked for everyone to take a toast, but most of us weren't really paying attention to the rest of his speech. Instead, we were focused on the smorgasbord of food that was now on display as the caterers arrived. I can't even properly describe the aroma. It was heavenly. There were mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie, sliced ham, cranberry sauce, hot wings, even a fully roasted turkey. It was like taking a trip back in time to our childhood. Seeing all of it made my mouth literally start watering. I was eager for Lucas to finish his boring speech so we could dig in, and by the looks of everyone else in attendance, we were all thinking the same thing. Most of us planned to stuff our faces full, get drunk, and then maybe get lucky with a coworker if the night got really interesting. But it was already apparent from just the small talk in the room, no one had much intention of staying longer than they had to. "Now does anyone have a few words before we bless the food?" Lucas asked. For an awkward moment, no one dared to raise their hand. Then a finger shot up near the bathroom, and I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Who in the fuck was holding up their meal just to blab for a few seconds? The stranger pushed her way towards the front, smiling toward all of us as she reached for one of the wine bottles. "It's so lovely to gather together like this with folks like yourselves. It makes everything so much more enjoyable," she cooed, as she uncorked it and took a glass to pour. "I want to propose a toast," she said as she let the beverage slip out into the clean cup. I'm not sure why, but as it fell into the glass, I thought it got cloudy, dark, as if there was something swirling about in the drink. She passed the drink to Lucas and then poured one for everyone else in the room. Surprisingly, the drink didn't run out, even though she made sure each of us had a full cup. Then she raised it to the heavens. We all downed it as she proclaimed, "To gluttony." As I swallowed the drink, I felt this strange tingling sensation in the back of my throat. The kind you get when you swallow a bitter pill, except about 10 times worse. I saw the others were also reacting a bit adversely to the wine, and panic set in. Had she just poisoned us? Who was this crazy woman? Why had she just made such a bizarre toast? Right now, you're probably thinking I must be crazy. But I'm also honest. All of you came here for one reason, and it wasn't for companionship or camaraderie. It was to gorge yourself on this fine food in front of us tonight. We don't even know each other's names, let alone care about who we are or why we're here. In fact, I wager that once this night ended, this whole thing would just be a blurry memory best forgotten. But I plan to change all of that. I came here to make sure that this was one memory you never could get rid of, no matter how hard you try. So eat, drink, be merry. The food here will certainly be plentiful, and as you will soon discover, the flavors and dishes prepared are like nothing you've ever experienced before. You'll wish that you had the decency to have shirked the invitation. You'll dream of being hungry, and most importantly, you'll stone for your sinful and lavish lifestyles. Stuffing your faces while children starve to death. There's nothing but shame that can be given to you, and what I offer tonight is just a small taste of what will befall you for the rest of your miserable, pathetic existence. Bon appetit. As she finished the speech, she reached towards the silver cover that hid one of the dishes and revealed to all of us the most disgusting entree I'd ever laid eyes on. It reminded me of a cockroach lying on its back, the thorax and abdomen exposed, with 6 long legs sticking out and dripping yellow pus from them. It was as black as tar and completely glazed with what seemed like old glue and melted rotten cheese. And if I'm not mistaken, it appeared that the giant insect was twitching, as though still alive. Immediately, all of us took a step back in revulsion, and I looked to Lucas for an explanation. But instead of showing me a look of concern, his eyes went hazy and hypnotic, as though he was lost in the desert and desperate for a drink. He stood over the bug, cutting into it with his carving knife, the way that you would a turkey. The raunch odor that came out as its belly spilled towards the rest of the food immediately made a few guests close to Lucas vomit. Even some of their disgusting throw-up got onto his clothing, but he didn't even flinch. Instead, to my utter shock, he leaned down toward the goopy mess that was sliding out of the insect and began to gnaw on it like a wild animal. Then he pushed his entire face into the slop, slurping on it greedily as the stench grew stronger. Others in the party started to join in, slowly making their way to the table and choosing a dish. At first I thought they were acting possessed, but instead I could tell by the look of fear on their faces that they were being forced against their will to eat. A man wearing a blue polo jacket chose the potatoes, picking one up and tenderly peeling it. Inside the skin of the vegetable, I could see what looked to be tiny, prickly quills that reminded me of a porcupine. I tried to shout for him to stop. Instead, he bit down on it hard, even though the needles were beginning to shoot out into the roof of his mouth. As he crunched on the potato, I saw the long needles piercing his tongue and the inner cheek of his mouth, making his entire face swell from their poisons. His eyes sealed shut, his face became a bulbous mass of pain as he continually ate on the dangerous food, blood pooling out and into his plate. Another woman pushed past me to lick the blood, lapping it up the way a dog would, and then spreading it across one of the other dishes as though it were a salad dressing. Some of them began to choke on their food, being unable to put it down their throats, and yet still trying to force down more. One woman in particular, I could see her throat bulging, and it looked like her skin might burst. A second later, it did. Broken pieces of bone sticking out of her neck as the toxic food she ate ripped her esophagus apart. At the same time, I saw a long trickle of spiders emerge from the bone, crawling off of her body and into the turkey that had yet to be touched. I found myself wandering towards it, unable to control the urge to cut it apart. It was filled with spiders and with maggots, thousands of them writhing as I finished carving and dipping my fingers into the disgusting dish. The sludge that was forming on my fingers did not look even remotely edible. It reminded me of a dirty diaper, the crusted remains of week-old feces getting stuck under my nails as I licked my thumb. A gagging sensation overwhelmed me as I vomited the food right back up and onto the turkey, feeling myself dry heave and fall to the floor, hitting a puddle of what felt like wet, clumped hair as I did. Melody stepped over me, herself overwhelmed by the same psychedelic urge to devour this pallet of putrefying delicacies and slurping the maggots up on the way that you would a noodle. Lucas came up to her, clearly enamored with her more than the food, and with the ooze of the insects still dripping from his lips, he proceeded to kiss her. Melody responded with eager lust, pushing him back onto the table and ripping his clothes off, but this wasn't carnal passion. I saw her reach for her utensils and knew immediately what dark desire she planned. She cut into his stomach with surgical precision. A nauseating aroma of overcooked fat and dead fish filled the air. Then she reached into his exposed belly with her bare hands, dragging out his intestines and biting into them like a crazed zombie. She ripped it apart and tossed it to the other co-workers, all of whom were beginning to turn on one another. They were gnawing at each other's faces, tearing off their skin and chewing on it like it was jerky. I could see someone ripping an eye out of its socket. One woman had gone so far as to completely take off her husband's nose. She was now fingering the empty hole in his face to eat more of his innards. Above it all, I saw the mysterious woman standing there, gleefully smiling as she whispered something to herself. I crawled away from the madness to confront her. "What is this? What are you?" I asked, barely able to make a whisper. I could feel sores forming in my mouth, my skin being eaten away by the filth I had just devoured, and I knew she was at the center of all of it. Even if I was about to die, I needed an answer. "Consider me a warning of what's to come for all who tend to cater to their vices," she said, as she bit down on the glass cup she was sipping. Shard pieces of glass piercing her tongue and lips without even much of a flinch of pain. "And me? Why am I getting to live?" I asked her. I could tell whatever spell she had worked on me and the others was waning off, yet still they continued to stuff their bellies with more guck, their stomachs literally ready to burst at a moment's notice. "Luck of the draw," the woman said, as she stepped over the heaving body of Melody, her face a contortion of disgust and shock as she couldn't stop nibbling on her own fingers down to the bone. I don't know what happened after I left. I went home to shower, desperate to wash away the muck and the grossness of the event, wishing it was all a dream. Then I saw Lucas at work, and I thought to myself, maybe it really had been a nightmare. A horror fever dream made by my strange, twisted recesses of my mind. "We're having a luncheon today, the leftovers. You should come by and have a bite," he said. I peered towards the break room and saw Melody standing there. Her belly looked so full, swollen, and pregnant. Her eyes were filled with pain and with hunger as she gently rubbed her stomach. I saw something kick. What's on the menu?" I asked as I felt my throat go dry. He smiled and showed me green, plaque-covered teeth with bits of skin still stuck in them. "It's gonna be fresh," he said, slapping my back heartily. I took a swallow of tap water and gave him a strained smile. I think I'll pass. I'm not hungry." Truth be told, though, as I left work that day, I was hungrier than I'd ever been. If I'm being honest, even the most vile things were appealing to me as I passed by a vat of gelatinous grease on the way to the dump. "One more bite," I thought to myself. I looked down at my stained, dirty, disgusting clothes and realized I knew who the stranger was last night. A name formed on my crusted, thirsty lips. Personification of gluttony. Adiphasia. A goddess that opened my eyes to the world. Damn me to this hell I must now suffer through. And that glow in her eyes told me she intended to have more worship at her altar soon. What a feast we've made for ourselves. What a feast we've made. Times have been tough for me, so I haven't quite updated everything as I would have liked in the past couple of months. I'm finally getting back to the swing of things as my life continues to normalize. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me, and honestly, I see all of your comments and your support as I've been talking about what's been happening with me, and I want to tell you all thank you so much for that, because it's been rough, and seeing your support has been life-saving. So thank you all so much for it. And as always, I want to give a big thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. That includes everybody who's been waiting for me to update my Patreon, and I thank you all so much for being so patient with me. But especially, I want to give a thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Jakob Fenske, Stephanie Butler, Bobby Karman, Chance Burnett, Kraus, Tristain Pelton, AcidSystem, Adam Gerecke, Aeryn Stormcrow, Aika Limchoc, Amber Clark, Angelus, Atomaurus, Bastion Beefcake, Blue the Enigma, Brayden Morris, Broken Beast 320, Captain Scurvy, Caspian, Shelly J, Corey Kenshin, Cronut 509, Crusader Chocobo, Cryptic Nightmares, Curse Pox Primarch, Dakota Lane Whetstone, Daniel Polson, Darth Miver, Deleted Account, Dirt Diver 030, M, Esteban, Fester's Lampshade, Freddy Krueger, Gorag Trimagazine, Grand Moth the Milky, Hades' Nephew, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Harley, Himbo Jerry, Horseman Sec Time, Insanity Gamer X, Jay Cairns, Jesus Corneo, Jordan Humble, Justin LaFontaine, Kaylee Ambrose, Kiri the Sloth, Crazy Kid, Cryolinian, Lambda M98, Lisa Cottrell, Little Crow, Lord Life's Best, Lupita Galvin, Love You Eminem, Matt Bach, Melted Lake, Michael Allen Jr. Bashirs, Mike, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Nate Cull, Nico Kayo, Psychomel, Red Shadowcat, Rob Like Sharp Things, Samahai, Sashi Suzaku, Seclude, Stricken, Tali Sue, Tater Chip, That Creepy Chick, The Ginger Bros, Turtle Man, Voice of Sand, William King, Xavier and Cheyenne, Yargul, and Zachary Graphius. If you'd like to join this list of names that I horribly mispronounce, then please head over to patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, or you can always check out the names in the description down below, and I appreciate it infinitely. So thank you all on Patreon, thank you all so much, and to everyone, sweet dreams.